My name is Vicky Boucher and this is A Wealthy Life, and I'm speaking to the fabulous Lisa Oliver, a previous guest on the podcast. Another private person, so you're going to find it hard to find her on the social networks and in podcast circuits and even on the speaker circuit. So getting her to share her knowledge with us has been invaluable. And what I really wanted to get out of this episode with Lisa is to draw on her experience of first managing her own portfolio, then deciding to start managing HMO properties, houses of multiple occupancy, for other investors because they were asking her to. And through that experience of managing all of these problems, what are the things that go wrong? And at first I was thinking it was about, DIY or not DIY. Do you self-manage or don't you self-manage? And actually, the answer, to just cheat a bit, is, well, that's up to you. But I think the key thing here is just because you can doesn't mean to say you should. And I think we get to that point by the time we get to the other end of the podcast. Again, really key things coming out of this. Education / knowledge, knowing the law, knowing what you need to be doing. And then I would say doing it as well. So knowledge is absolutely crucial. Having the communication skills, because if you self-manage, it's a very, very much a people business, but it's also a team business because you're going to need the team around you to support you. You cannot and surely don't want to be on call 24/7 to tenants, but you're going to have a system in place that if something goes wrong in the night, they lock themselves out, or a pipe bursts and it comes through the ceiling, that someone's going to be there to answer the phone and deal with those things, even though you train them to do most of the work within the middle of the day. And then, do you need a mentor to guide you through this? So it's all well and good having a team, and the team is there to support you almost like underneath you, but who is there to pull you up? And of course, like all things, keeping an eye on the maths. So sit back, enjoy, take notes, make sure that you like and follow so you don't miss any more of these episodes. And what I would also suggest that you do is go in and check the show notes and then go back and you'll be able to pick up on the other interviews that I've done with the lovely Lisa. And now over to me and Lisa. Hello and welcome. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see that I'm here again with the lovely Lisa Oliver. So we'll put links at the bottom so you can go back and pick up on a couple of the podcasts that we've already recorded. Lisa, thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you for inviting me back.
My pleasure. I know just how much experience you've got and how much you've got to share. So this is not just having you on for 3 times for the sake of 3 times. It's the fact that I haven't drawn everything out of your brain that would be useful for the people that are listening. So we're going to give it a few more rings. And this time we're looking at to DIY or not to DIY as a sort of a topic. And what we're talking about here is definitely not DIY in the house. This is whether you self-manage or don't self-manage. You and I do slightly different things, and you've also got properties that you manage for everybody else. And I thought, well, if there is somebody to ask about this, the pros and the cons, I think, are the big thing here. So what would you say are the pros and the cons of self-managing?
Pros and the cons. Obviously, if you have time to spend and you like people, if you enjoy the job, because it is a job, then it can be really rewarding. You can know all your tenants' names. You're close to your investment if you really want to be very hands-on. When something goes wrong, you then have to deal with it, and you can bet your bottom dollar that thing that goes wrong will happen on a bank holiday weekend or while you're away in the Maldives or something like that. So yeah, I mean, you just have to take the rough with the smooth. Obviously, it costs money if you outsource to a letting agent. If you do it yourself, it costs you your time, the value of your time, rather than your hard-earned cash. You probably are still going to be using tradespeople. But I find I've self-managed. So I started investing in 2009, and I chose to self-manage One, because I wanted to understand all the roles and everything as I was learning, but mainly because I couldn't find a letting agent who was really genuinely expert at HMO. So you will find letting agents that say, "Oh no, we'll do HMOs," because they'll just go, "Oh yeah, we want the business," and then they don't really do a good job. And then the other reason was because actually I do enjoy it. I'm a people person, as you know, Vicky, and so I actually quite like hearing about the tenants and their backstories and things like that. But as we grew, landlords would come to me and then say, "Oh, could you, you're doing quite a good job with your properties. Can you help me out?" And obviously, setting up a letting agency, you have to have all the right insurances, and the client money protect, etc. So it's a different proposition, but eventually, we have now set up an agency. So I'm in both camps really, and I think because we've got a letting agency, people then assume that I'm automatically going to be just trying to sell our services to landlords, and that's not the case, because you can self-manage. It is possible. But you can't cut corners with it. Maybe a few years ago, you could be a hobby landlord and you could do it in your spare time. And with single lets, it is easier because you've just got one tenancy.
Yeah.
Depends on the property. But with
And the
HMO,
legislation is easier, slightly easier. There's still bits that overlap, but
100%, especially with the inspections and the fire alarm tests and all of that. So I think what I would say is that if you are going to self-manage, do it for the right reasons. Don't just see it as a line item on the spreadsheet thinking, "Oh, I could save a few quid here," because it might end up costing you more. Just in monetary terms, but also with your peace of mind. And
yes, I was going to say sanity. So
I've
just
got somebody in my mind actually as I'm saying that, as I'm chuckling to myself, because he's a friend of mine and I know him very well, and I've always kind of joking saying, "Well, we can manage it for you," and he's like, "No, I'm not giving money away to you letting agents." I said, "Fine." Anyway, he's actually come unstuck now, and I'm not saying I told you so, because it is, he's not in a good situation, but he's not done everything correctly as he should have done.
Yeah. And so what I was just going to say was, in terms of letting agents, if you're letting out a property at 500 and you're paying 10%, we're talking about 50 quid a month for the peace of mind of somebody else being on call 24/7. I don't know, forsaking £50 and letting somebody else be on call 24/7, that's a price worth having. I think probably it's when you come to HMOs, there are more challenges. And let's just say what an HMO is, if you don't know. House of multiple occupancy. You'll often think of these as student houses, but it's basically a house where the property is rented room by room and the people in the rooms don't necessarily know one another. Because of that, there is legislation, the simplest piece of legislation, which is about fires. It's too easy, if there are strangers in the house, for someone to not deal with a cigarette, for someone not to deal with something in the kitchen, and fire is a massive risk. So already there is an additional burden on an HMO landlord and an HMO property about fire doors, fire inspections, fire alarms that aren't typical in a normal 2-bed. Because again, a typical 2-bed, a buy-to-let is 2 stories, whereas an HMO could easily be a 3-story Victorian, because you're looking to get the extra room. So that's the HMO bit. If you then think about HMO, because the whole reason for that technique is to rent the room out, and you're renting it out by the room because you're making more money, you could now be talking about rent coming in at 2,000 a month for one property. And so you're now then considering, well, hold on a second, it's 200 quid. Shall I just be on the end of the phone just in case? And it's a very easy thing to think that you want to do. And I've done it once, and I want the lifestyle. I want the lifestyle. I want the freedom to know that everything is being managed. I manage everything, but I want effectively employees, what I rudely, I suppose, consider my letting agent. My letting agent is like my extended employee, and they have the systems, and I make sure that they have the systems, and we have regular conversations. And I think that also ties in with the conversation, or the point that you made earlier about finding a good letting agent. You mentioned it in the context of HMOs, but quite frankly, even in the context of a buy-to-let letting agent, a regular letting agent, finding someone who knows how to do it. We've just had a situation at the moment where we're in the middle of buying a property. It's got tenants in. We've asked for copies of the tenancy agreement. There are 3 flats in this block. One has a great tenancy and the deposit has been filed properly. The other 2, the tenancy deposits weren't filed until 44 and 51 days after the tenancy agreement was set up. It's not a legal tenancy. And now what's happened is not only is that existing landlord at risk for the next 5 years that the tenants could come back and sue him, but we now also are going to be buying into a potential risk that my client could be at risk for the next 5 years. So we're having to have a legal agreement drawn up where the existing landlord admits and takes on the responsibility that were there to be a claim, that they would then pay for the potential financial costs to the new landlord coming in. And we've had to redo all of the tenancies. We're redoing them now, so they are now 0 deposit tenancies, and then we're going to take them over as 0 deposit tenancies and reissue them again with properly lodged.
Serve them the notice and then restart.
But because we're at the point of we're just about to buy, we're having to do this faff about. But you're still liable. They could still come back to you, couldn't they?
Well, that's it. It's liability.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes down to you talking about having your team working for you. I mean, really, like, it's do you want to take on the liability, or would you prefer to? And that's where your 10% or whatever percentage is going.
Yeah. That's worth the money. That peace of mind. But then I still think that, and again, I'm going to talk from the buy-to-let, and we'll come back and do it the flip way with you with the HMOs. But certainly with a buy-to-let letting agent, which is broadly a high street letting agent that you could find, finding one that understands how to do things. I've got another story of a flat in London where the incoming tenant was in the letting agent's office, and they're in the office signing the paperwork while the gas certificate guy is in the flat doing the gas certificate. The gas certificate was not given to the tenants, not emailed until 24 hours later. At the point of signing, there wasn't actually either a valid gas certificate, because if you were precise about the times, or was there a copy given to the tenants? All of a sudden, and that case we're taking through to the property ombudsman, which I have to say is very slow. But anyway, just because you've trusted a letting agent, and this is a well-known chain, a franchise of letting agents. They are a big name in London, and they have completely, and that's not the only ball they've dropped. They've completely dropped the ball on so many things.
Oh, well, that's a whole conversation about whether size actually matters, because people want to go to the bigger companies because they feel like they're going to get a better service, because they charge more, and they charge more because they must be better. Not necessarily. So we have just won a piece of business in the last couple of weeks from a landlord who has moved from a very large chain, where the person actually dealing with his properties doesn't really know about property. And it's not necessarily her fault. She's not been properly trained, but it's worrying when there's 170 pieces of legislation that you need to be aware of. And he knew more than she did. So they're a massive company, but unless you've got the actual systems and processes and the right training in place, and it's unregulated at the moment. There is talk. I think it will happen at some stage that that regulation will happen, and then agents will need to be qualified. But at the moment, anybody could set themselves up as a letting agent. So
it's interesting, isn't it?
I mean, it's the same as any industry. There are great builders, there are rubbish builders. They're, all landlords. If you listen to the media, all landlords are bad. But of course, we know that they're not.
No.
But not all letting agencies are equal either.
No. So a bit there. Size doesn't matter. And I think one of the other things I'd say is, just because they look like a large estate agent doesn't mean to say they're all part of the same team. They could actually be various individual single companies that have just taken on a franchise, so that doesn't mean anything. Also, frequently, the person dealing with you is not someone who invests in property or knows about property investment. I know in the team that I use that some of the staff are already investors themselves, so they've got more experience and it's there. But making sure that the checks and balances are within the company that you're going to go to, as you said, that they've got the systems and the practices, the team is trained. What happens when that team member leaves? We've had that on a number of letting agents where we'd gone to a company, things are going really well, and then that key person, not only the one that you have the relationship with and the one that you trust, but the one that has all the knowledge goes, and the person they replace them with isn't as skilled, isn't put through some sort of training process. There's no overlap between the two that are leaving. There's no handover. And all of a sudden you end up with, not being rude, but almost the equivalent of a teenager. This isn't to do with age, but just somebody who could have just literally left school and have no experience with money, with dealing with contractors, and as you say, with all of that legislation. So it's really, really important to vet these people. And I said to you, I think before this, that I consider, or maybe I said it in this, that I consider my letting agent to be an employee. If you were going to take on an employee and pay them, not only would you check everything about them, rather than just go there and sign a management agreement, you'd interview them, you'd make sure that they were fit for purpose. And I suppose that's probably where you've come.
Most people don't.
No, but we should be. Like, how many properties do you manage? How many late rent days do you have? What percentage do you charge for dealing with maintenance? What's the changeover period? All of that needs to be taken into account. And I can imagine that then going up a level to something called an HMO, which has even more complex tenancies, conditions, systems and processes required, that you just weren't finding that. I can completely understand how that's possible.
Yeah, people less so now, actually. You do, and I respect letting agencies that do actually say, no, I don't do HMOs. But there are still lots of them that sort of say, oh, no, yeah, we do HMOs. So I say, well, how many have you got on your books at the moment? Oh, well, we don't have any on our books at the moment. But we don't really do HMOs then.
No.
Because you only really, you have to have a few years of experience under your belt to really sort of understand.
Do actually means have one or have more than one. That term was I want to do.
Yes, exactly. And how many years of experience, and are you aware of all the current legislation and what's going to be changing in the future? How up to date are you on that? So yes, these are all the questions that you should be asking. And if I were to give you 100 extra properties, how could you cope with these? Who would be dealing with it? You talked about the systems. Is it scalable? Because these are relevant to the small companies as well, because the small company needs to be big enough to be able to handle the business.
Yeah.
But what you do, but what you do get with a lot of the smaller companies is the personal service, because you invariably are dealing with somebody more senior. You might be dealing with the director.
Yes. Yeah, I think the more properties you have, the easier it is to get that level of respect. Certainly when you start off and you're just going along with one property, it's much harder. I think also to be very aware that while you might be friendly, they're not friends. This is a business relationship. I know that in the past I've been very friendly with my letting agents, very friendly. But when they make a mistake, you got to be on the phone. You got to be pulling them up. And you do it politely, obviously. But if necessary, you have to change agents.
Yeah. No, I do have letting agents that I use still as well, because some of my properties are nowhere near where I live. And in those instances, I think you're bonkers if you try and manage them. I mean, you could do the administrative side of things, but you absolutely need somebody on the ground.
Yeah. I think distance is absolutely key. And we sort of live in Surrey, like you, and then we've got some properties in London, and you think, oh, that's not far. I mean, one of our properties on a bad day took us 5 hours to get to it because it's London, isn't it? And the traffic, and it was just a nightmare. So even for the ones that are close for us, we just went, why are you doing this? I get mad, not mad as in angry, but I go balmy every so often, and something will change in the portfolio, particularly with the London ones, because there is that proximity. And I go, we could do that. Why don't we? Oh, no,
And
let's
then
just
remember why you outsourced
well,
it.
not until we've got into it, and then I've like hired the van, and we're giving up a weekend to go clear out the crap or paint the walls, and then I go, oh, Vicky, why are you doing this again? Do you remember the last time you did this? You hated it, it made you miserable, or the time before that, it made you ill because the house was so dirty. Stop doing this. I have to say, I haven't done it for 10 years now. I am very proud of myself. For the last 10 years, I've just but it's an easy thing.
Yeah.
Because you love the people. I love people. I don't have the same relationship with my tenants that you do. So some of the tenants are quite nice, but I love people. I don't know that I love my tenants. I love my tenants as being clients that help me to live the way I am. So that's sort of sense, but I don't have that same relationship. I don't know about their lives. Sometimes you come across them. Sometimes I have tenants move in, stay there 3 years, and I really know nothing about them because there's no problem. There's one or two that I have a WhatsApp relationship with, and I know them a bit better, but I don't really know them or know too much about their lives. But we speak, and that's fine. But the temptation when you love property, and I love painting. I love getting into that contorted angle and getting your brush stroke just right to do that corner between the wall and the ceiling. I'm quite fond of that edge up there and getting that just right. And of course, if you get it wrong, you've then got to paint the ceiling back in, and then you've got to paint back up. And I don't know why. I love it until I've then committed to taking on a whole house and doing it, so maybe I don't love it quite as much these days as I used to.
Well,
So
same. Yeah, same. I love my tenants, and I am a people person. But as we've got bigger and as I've got older, I'm now a business owner of a letting agency, and we have on the ground people and people in place. So I am a layer removed from it now. It was more just when I started that actually I really enjoyed that side of things. I still do, but I don't know every tenant's name now.
oh, don't you? Yeah, it's got too big.
Maybe I do, but no, I don't know, them in depth.
Yeah.
But if there's a relationship thing that needs to be dealt with, then I that's where I step in, because that's my forte.
But in a sense, that's also, if you like, your job as the MD. You're ultimately, the buck stops with you, whether it's your personal portfolio or the lettings business. Someone needs to take responsibility. And I think you also have to be aware, even when you use another company based letting agent, actually the buck stops with you. So you've still got to have not so much a hands-on, but oversight of everything.
Absolutely. That's why the systems are really important.
Yeah. So you mentioned one person that you don't want to say I told you so to. Have you got any stories or things that landlords cut corners on that then come back to bite them?
Oh, well, maintenance issues, where you continually, if rather than just dealing with them straight away, you think, oh, well, that's can be ignored, and then it becomes just much bigger. So even this one's just popped into my head actually, but like something really simple like masticing around the bath.
Oh,
If
yeah.
it doesn't get dealt with, if you don't see these things on inspections, then you've got water going on it every day, and you don't quite know what's going on underneath the bath. And I've had a landlord where a whole ceiling has fallen through into the floor below, because the floor, it's just a drip that's just carried on, leaking over a long period of time.
I'd say we have
something like
exactly that. That's a great one. We had it where the shower fittings were, all fancily done, and the shower fittings were put in the wall and tiled over so that you only had the knobs on the outside, but a connection had come loose in the back, and it was dripping for 4 years down the back of the wall. And in 4 years, which in some ways doesn't sound like a long time, but 4 years of constant drip, and not only is it dripping, it's staying wet. actually rotted the floorboards, which is, I guess, rotted the joists. And we were literally, you know, that much away from these joists giving them, because you've got a heavy bath and shower unit and everything on there. It's that weight is just pushing down. So easy.
And then you've got thousands with replacing a whole new bathroom,
Yeah.
disruption.
And the easy way to spot that is to spot the damp in the ceiling in the room below. And then if you don't act on that, if you don't go, damp on the ceiling, what am I going to do about that? Go upstairs and check things out. Yes.
Yeah, but even you can just spot it even just by looking at the
Oh yeah, mastics on one side. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why actually property inspections are really important.
Yeah.
To prevent it's preventative stuff really. So preventative maintenance, stop it building up over time. I mean, I've had some unusual horror stories where actually somebody was using an electric meter on the property, which we discovered when the electric bill was quite high, and then we needed to upgrade because this was a particularly non-compliant HMO, which a landlord had acquired, and we were dealing with the council on his behalf, and actually saved him a £30,000 fine, really, just to ensure that he actually got up to full compliance. But in trying to upgrade the consumer unit, because they didn't have RCD protectors, it was there's a whole heap of things that were not great in this house. We could fill 10 podcasts on this house alone. But we discovered that the previous owner was like a parasite, taking electricity to feed another house behind. Basically, it was a shared supply. Now, this
Nice.
other, claimed that they weren't aware because they just got one bill. I don't know. It's not for me to say, but yeah, that's another horror story where he was paying for her bills for a number of, a good while. But then the landlord actually was like, no, cut it off, just literally cut it off. And that was when we were like, if we do that, then their tenants, because it was a tenanted property behind, won't have electricity. And that's not the right thing to do.
No.
You actually, in that instance, we you sort of have to look at it holistically and think, well, it's not the tenant's fault. So we've managed to come up with a solution where everybody kind of wins,
Yeah. That's a key part of your personality skills and people skills and communication skills. I think that's where you excel.
It's not always about the money.
No.
And people badmouth tenants. Don't get me wrong, I've got my fair share of tenant stories, but tenants are wonderful, and I think people are too unkind to them. And so I certainly didn't want to be cutting them off just because of the what the owner had or hadn't done.
I think we need to change the word. There might be a tenancy, which is the legal document between us, but they are our clients and we are the business owner. It's just the same as if they were a passenger in our taxi. Exactly. Treat with respect, provide them with a decent service, get paid a fair amount of money. And that sort of, I think you would agree, that's the way I run my business always.
Yeah.
So what other things? So we've got that's, like dodgy electrics, we've got missed maintenance. What other things are?
I've spotted dry rot in a house before. I mean, that again wouldn't come with any old letting agent, I don't think. So I again saved £15,000 to a landlord by spotting dry rot. I think that's just come from years of doing renovations, and also the fact that we're landlords ourselves. So I think that
was that prior to purchase or when you took it over?
This again is another landlord's properties that we manage for our letting agency. There was an empty room and wanted to just get it filled, which obviously we want to do as well. It's in our interests to get it filled, and we certainly don't want to be having voids for landlords. But I was like, I think we need to investigate that. Luckily, I've got lots of experts all on, like independent surveyors as opposed to contractors that would just want to charge you.
Yes, make the money. Yeah.
And I was right. So it was dry rot, and it was active dry rot. So if that had been left, it would have been
spread.
Yeah, really bad. House kaput.
Yeah. So, and then what about the thorny issue, I suppose, is if you're self-managing, you're the one creating the tenancy. And I just mentioned on a flat or block of flats that we're buying, that, you know, making that simple mistake, well, it's not a simple mistake, it's a fundamental mistake of not having all the prescribed information at the right time, not filing deposits at the right time. You got any stories around that?
Yeah, I've got one where I mean, you literally just, if you did want to say evict a tenant. I know there's a whole lot of controversy over Section 21 notices, but you do have the right to be able to get your property back if you want to. And if you haven't done that stuff, then you just you can't. And it will go to court and then it will get thrown out of court. So I have seen numerous cases where it's been thrown out of court. But I met with a landlord like just 2 weeks ago where he has got a problem with a tenant in an HMO. I don't know all the details, but it's causing all the other really lovely tenants just to want to leave. And he's like, what can I do? And just scratching below the surface, he hadn't done the deregulation documents. He was late on protecting the deposit. He hadn't served the how to rent guide. He wasn't registered with the ICO. So from a data protection perspective, and he was like, oh, I didn't realize I needed to do that. So, are you taking tenants' details? Yes, you are. Are you running this as a business? Yes, you are. So he wasn't registered with the ICO. He hadn't done the correct right to rent checks. He said, well, I think they've got an English passport. I said, well, you think they've got an English passport? Do you know that? So it's not just about, you've got to do the correct checks and you've got to have evidence of the checks. The list could go on. He hadn't done he didn't have up-to-date fire alarm certificates and he wasn't doing the regular fire alarm testing. And again, you're supposed to evidence that as well in a logbook. So it's all very well when things are going fine. But then when they're not, what happens if there was a fire? What happens if something else happened? And that
Yes.
So, you know, I was just saying and right to rent fines have gone up. And I think I was reading somewhere, I think the fines for right to rent now in Q1 this year have already surpassed the whole of the right to what they fined last year in 2023. So they're serious about this. It's underlying the importance of, I mean, that's immigration, which is one thing, but just general regulation and compliance.
But I think what you've also got to be aware of as a business owner, as a landlord, that if the government spots something like that, then that's what they'll hone in on, because they'll go, oh, this is a quick way to make money. This is a quick way to create fines, and start calling on landlords to check that. Now, in a lot of areas, we've also got additional licensing, or so there's that, just even those terms are ridiculous, aren't they? So there's mandatory licensing and additional licensing, and then there's this over the top landlord licensing. I mean, basically you need to be licensed. And if you're in an area that needs to be licensed, or even if you're not and you're just running HMOs, that should trigger in you the fact that you need to be professional. And there are plenty of places that you can go for the training. And even if you don't get involved in any sort of mentorship, in London, we've got the London Landlord Accreditation Service, which is run by Camden Council. Even though the bulk of my portfolio is in the north, I've always gone to them because there is a super system. You take your tests online. The other thing is that if you get yourself educated in that way, you can remember a couple of those questions, and those can be the questions that you can interview your letting agent on. And if your letting agent doesn't know that, then they simply haven't put their staff through the processes. You know, they could be watching the videos and taking the tests themselves and knowing the information that you can do equally online. Do you find that it's that fundamental knowledge, not just because we've sort of been coming at it from the angle of people wanting to save money, and I can see how you could think that by doing this you could be saving yourself money, but we've just pointed out that when you start penny pinching on things, it can cause bigger problems. But do you see a lot of fundamental knowledge missing in some landlords stroke investors?
Absolutely, all the time. Yeah, and letting agents. But yes, no, I do. And it may well be that they just don't know and they're not interested. But things are changing all the time. So you've got to keep on top of it. So it's constantly changing. So it is something that you do need to just keep on top of, or ensure that your letting agency is doing that for you and on your behalf.
And I would say one easy way to do that is, over the years, I have had numerous both letters and emails from my letting agent going, this is a change in the area, whether it was the introduction of licensing or, because I've been with the one agent so long, bringing in Legionella checks, bringing in the right to rent checks, and them updating me on a relevant change in legislation that I need to be aware of. But equally, if you're not, because you use that phrase, not interested, if you're not that interested in learning about it, then use an agent.
Yeah, absolutely that.
I mean, presumably you're investing in property because you want to make money. Then doing the things from education to managing properly yourself, if you are interviewing the right letting agent, if you're going to use one, managing the letting agent properly, doing all of those things will actually make you more money than not doing those things. Would you agree?
Well, that's the way it certainly can do, and that's the way that we always look at it. We're like, we are your asset managers. We are landlords ourselves.
Yes.
We will, you've got to obviously know that we are good at our job. And hopefully we would prove that. But in a lot of instances, we're saying to landlords, no, don't spend money on that, or at least not yet. But this is where you do need to spend. And then the value of your asset will remain. If you leave it, the value of your asset will decrease, but then you attract poor quality tenants, the rents will be lower. So yes, we like to look at it as a landlord's profitability. And obviously with HMOs, a lot of that is where we will look at the bills and analyze the bills. So we'll keep the energy costs as low as we can. We'll advise on efficiencies, and the rents, the rent reviews, so that they would make more money. And
that's such an easy thing to miss, isn't it? The two sides of income and expenses is not keeping an eye on the expenses, not getting the quotes in for the builders, or, for example, we spoke about this before, trying to do the job yourself. I mean, really, were you quicker? Did you save money? It might have been better to bring a trade in, and then you've got an invoice that you can offset against tax anyway. But the other thing is, as you say, both the inspections that need to be done regularly and the rent reviews that need to be done regularly. The number of times I meet people, through sourcing properties, which I do for my clients, and then having a conversation with the tenant that's in a place going, when was the rent last put up? Well, I don't know. I haven't had a rent, increase in a long while. How much are you on now? And seeing that just one property that we're buying at the moment, they're £200 a month less than the market rent. That's 20, well, £2,000, 2,400 a year. That's a lot of money.
I know, and then you're supposed to increase it by something that is what's deemed fair and reasonable, and to increase it by, it depends what the rent was to start with, but as a percentage, it has to be fair and reasonable, and £200 might not be fair and reasonable.
Yeah, so you're talking about going from 700 to 900. You can't put that up in one go. Not expect the tenant to complain. But you've lost that all the way along, and you could have just been putting it up by a nice 5 to 8% every year, tricking along, and also making it easy for the tenant to get it. Just sometimes putting it up by 50 quid because you forgot to do last year is a lot of money for someone to find. Putting it up by 20 or 25 quid because you do it every year, and I know that the numbers are different for you in HMOs, and also your turnover will be different as well. And I suppose that might be another thing that is often an error, is that if you are self-managing, thinking that you can handle everything, and then having that big gap between, right, the tenant served notice, you didn't pay attention, you then did the inspection at the very end, you hadn't done a pre-inspection, then you've got to get the trades in, then there's, the trades are busy, or you can get all of this done, but there's one that needs doing, and then eventually all the trades work's done, then you've got to mark it again, and before you know it, the properties, or that room, for example, could have been empty for a month or more. That's your profit, isn't it? Because that's the thing with an HMO. Let's say we just take a nice 4, that you've got your mortgage, you've got your utility bills, you maybe got to cover your maintenance and insurance, and number 4 is profit. or however the maths works on it, if number 4 room or one of those rooms is empty, you're only making the money to cover the mortgage and the utility bills and cover the maintenance. And if 2 of those rooms are empty, you're at a loss.
Yeah, with an HMO, it is proactive management all the way. So you have to be on it.
Yeah, and that is exactly why you would get yourself a good letting agent with a good system and a proven track record in managing, whether again we're talking about HMOs or buy-to-lets, because it's not that I don't want to be proactive, I just don't want to have my eye on my properties 24/7, because I've got other things that I'm doing. And I know there's an age difference for a start. I know it's hard to tell on YouTube, and it's really hard to tell on podcast, but yes, she's much younger than I am. So you're still,
but
we'll play that game afterwards off air, I think. But I think that you're much more actively involved in, you're still very hands-on, you're still doing your developments, whereas I'm being lazy now and I'm just buying one and plopping it in, and then buying one and plopping it in. And so I think you reach a different point in your life. But my experience means that I have enough knowledge, and I've done my accreditations and everything else, that I can be in those conversations with the letting agent, so that I can manage my letting agent to make sure that my letting agent's doing a good job, and not just hope that there is a trust there because it is a proven trust. And I think that's the thing. If we're speaking to somebody at the moment who's like in their late 20s, early 30s, coming into property, starting out on HMOs, much like you would have been right when you started, then yes, getting involved and hands-on in that first deal and knowing how to manage it, knowing all, but please do it with the training. Don't just wing it.
Yeah, I think even if you are going to be outsourcing to letting agent, you still need to be aware on a broad level of what's needed. Because you do still have a responsibility, and then you can't just blame you are responsible for choosing your letting agent. And so a lot of landlords, again, this is going back to, I can't remember if we said it on the podcast or if it was when we were chatting before, but you just believe what you see on social media because they've done a sales pitch to you. Just because a letting agent says that they're good and that they've done this, we'll do this, we'll do that, they might just be a good salesperson. Can they actually deliver? I mean, this applies to if you're looking for investment, or if you're looking for a builder or whatever. But certainly you as a landlord have a responsibility to find and choose that letting agent, and I would say that you need to be thorough in your research with that. Ask good questions, get references. Don't just ask for one reference. Ask for like 5. Ask for 5 of their clients.
Yes.
And then you choose who you call.
Yes. Yeah, very definitely. I think it's that don't believe the likes.
Yeah.
It's very easy, isn't it? I mean, we were talking off air about, for example, one company that I've just literally come across today, who is a property investment company selling a deal to an investor, and they've overpriced the property. The property is on a fixed rent for the next 5 years because that's part of the purchase agreement. The cash flow isn't there. The return on investment isn't there. And yet, they are great marketeers. They are attracting, I was going to use the word gullible, and that's rude. I'm going to say less experienced people in, and then selling them deals that aren't the best. And whether it's a sourcing agent, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a letting agent, whether it's a builder, it could be your insurance company. I mean, one of the things with insurance companies is, how the thing with an insurance company is we pay them, but it's when you need them, when they do the claim. How is the claims process? That's what you want to be asking, not just what is my premium going to be? Oh, and can we shave that off by not including this, that, and the other? And then actually find that it doesn't really matter how much you pay. The bottom line is they're going to say no, or the claims is going to be so slow, or the process is going to be so elongated, you're going to lose so much money. So it's always just
back end systems. It's always come, what happens when things go wrong? How would you deal?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or maybe we should have called it, instead to DIY or not to DIY, what happens when things go wrong? So what happens when, how can we, rather than what happens when things go wrong, because I think we've talked about that, what can we do to stop things going wrong? If we're going to sort of like round up at the end here, have you got, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 tips that you would give to either someone who is a landlord or someone who is thinking of becoming a landlord, about how they can avoid the classic pitfalls that we've been speaking about?
Well, I mean, it depends if they've already got an investment strategy that they're happy with, but I would get the right education and training. Just anybody can go out there and buy a property. It's not, you can go into a shop and buy whatever you want. Anybody can go out there and buy a property, but it's all about buying the right property. And so there's a whole wealth of information. So don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
From a mentor, somebody like yourself, Vicky, who helps to guide and avoid mistakes. But yeah, so definitely surround yourself with people that are already doing what you want to do and are maybe slightly further ahead so that they can guide you. I'd say that's probably the biggest piece of
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah.
But I think with landlord, I think a lot of people do make it look easy. I mean, it is more difficult now, and most people are being upfront about that on the social networks. But don't, again, sort of thing about don't believe everything you see on Facebook, because people will always say how much money they've made on the stock market, or what, these amazing deals. They tend to gloss over how much money they've lost on the stock market and things like that. So don't just assume that everybody else is making tons of money and it's all going to be easy, because it's not. So just have a reality check head on it. Get really good power team. Make sure you've got excellent solicitor, excellent broker. Ask for recommendations. There's loads of groups on Facebook where you can ask for recommendations of people that are doing it right now, because again, if somebody was good a few years ago, they might not be good right now.
Yeah. And then that tip again, still speak to, ask for 5 of their clients so that you can pick who you want to speak to. Still, just because I recommend doesn't mean to say I might not be getting a kickback. I mean, I don't get a kickback, but you don't know why people recommend people. So make sure that you're getting, as you say, that reinforced.
Don't just take people's word for it. Do the digging. And on that front, also read the small print.
Yeah.
Read the terms of the letting agency that you're planning on signing. Actually read it. Read the clauses. And if you're not happy with something, change it. Ask to change it. Question
It's
it.
negotiable.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, some things might not be, but in which case you've got to decide whether you want to, and then you're in the position, of control. So I don't think enough people do that, in my mind.
No.
What else? Just
So education, good team, read the T&Cs.
Your network, but also be careful who you listen to. So I think it's very easy to compare yourself with others. I would say just stay in your lane, stay focused, take advice from others, but just be careful, just listen, but then work out whose advice you want to take.
Yes.
And I would listen more closely to the people who are doing exactly what you want to do, but are further ahead than you. Because again, I hear people listening to advice from friends, family members, other people, and then you're saying, and so how many HMOs have they got? What are they actually doing?
Oh, they're not even investing in property.
It's their own ego at play. So you've got to sort of think, well, why are they saying that?
Yes. And it is interesting quite how many friends and family will have an opinion based on nothing whatsoever, no foundations, no knowledge, no experience.
It's usually based on fear, I think.
Very good. Yes. Yeah. Very good. They're not brave enough to do what you've done. Their attitude to risk is different. So yes, fascinating, isn't it?
So on that note, yeah, definitely take the knowledge, but still take the action. But you can then just have a plan A strategy, but also a B and a C and a D, especially in today's market. Work on worst case scenario numbers.
Yes. Yeah. So again, maths. So know your math. So know your strategy, get
Yeah.
your education, get your power team, and know what the conditions of working with that power team are. Read your T's and C's. Get advice, but temper whose advice you listen to, and know the numbers.
And if you're not going to use a letting agency, and you know you're not going to use a letting agency, still plug the numbers in as though you're using a letting agency, because that is the value of your time, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you know that if you did have to hand it over, that the numbers still work.
Yes. Yes, that's an easy thing to do, isn't it? To get yourself into a position where the deal only works if you self-manage, not you can't afford to. So no, that's a real gem just at the end there. That's a really good
and
one.
don't ever be afraid to walk away.
What, from who you're working with, or a deal?
Or a deal.
Yeah. Until you've signed on the dotted line,
Yeah,
whether
you
it's the
can still,
contract with the agent or the solicitors,
somebody
you
said,
can change your mind.
yeah, I went on a brilliant like development day the other month, and they said, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yes.
And I've taken that away, and you can apply it to so many things. So
Yes. Yeah, no, I think that's a great system. Maybe I will go back and change the title from DIY to not DIY to just because you can doesn't mean to say you should. I think that sounds like that's quite a good title, isn't it? That'll teach me for staking it right at the beginning. I might change to that, because that is the bottom line.
Way this was going to go, was it? It was always
No, but that is the bottom line of it. Just because you can self-manage, does it mean that you should? You know, have you got all of these other things in place?
And just because you want to now, will you still want to in 5 years? You don't know. Assuming you're heading into property for the long game, which many landlords are, you know, who knows what's round the corner. So that's why you do have to plan for
all eventualities. Yeah. Lisa, I am so grateful for your time. I know what a busy day that you've got on, and I can only imagine. I am very grateful for you coming back, and I think this is really useful. This whole idea of I do love this. Just because you can, does that mean you should? I think
I borrowed that from somebody else. Can't remember his name, but I'll take it. Yeah.
That's okay. I'm sure it's out there. I vaguely remember.
I know it's not trademarked.
No, it's not a trademark, Lisa, but it's a very good thank you for sharing that, Lisa, sentence. And I think what we've got here is exactly that point. So you've heard of all the things that can go wrong. You know why people do try and save money, and you can understand that. But if the deal doesn't stack with the letting agent fees in there, then maybe the deal isn't the right deal, or the prices aren't the right prices, or that you're not managing the expenses right. So there's a whole load of things that you need to be questioning. Why am I self-managing, and how long do I want to do this? Am I doing it at the beginning of my career like you did, and like it's possible to do because you want to learn the systems? But actually what you need to be doing is going, does this stack when I am ready to hand this over to a letting agent? And also just be aware of, if particularly if you're getting into things like HMOs, who would manage it for you? You know, are you in an area where there is anybody around that could step in and help you, and know that you have that backstop person? Because even if you're not using them for letting your properties right now because you want to learn, they could be part of your power team. They could become one of your mentors. That could be the person that you learn from, and then eventually hand over your 4 or 5 HMOs to them, for which they'll be very grateful, knowing that they've been training you to be a good client all the way along. Because then the 4 or 5 properties that they get, they know don't have problems because they've been helping you to move along. So it can be a win-win all the way along, but it's all about that idea of strategy. Lisa, we're going to put your contact details in the show notes, so how people can get hold of you. You're not a huge fan of social media. We've sort of picked that up. But is there any social media that people could follow you on?
No, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, and I am on Instagram. And I have been on there a bit more often than I was, but probably for the last year. I've been a bit more active.
That's good.
Reluctantly.
Okay. Reluctantly. Yeah. So every time we see one of your posts, we'll know you're going, I just before you post.
No, I think it's because even though I'm an extrovert, I'm quite private, and also I don't like it's trying to find being authentic on
Yes.
that authenticity, which is really important to me.
Yes.
And I don't like to just talk about the successes. I like to talk about the failures as well. And I think that's not done enough on social media.
I absolutely agree with you. I think that's really interesting, and I don't know if that's a female thing or if that's just a very sort of like niche for people wanting to be authentic. Absolutely agree with you. It's about your successes as well as your failures, because people can learn from them.
Yeah.
So once again, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm no doubt we'll come back round next year or so, and as soon as you come up with a great story, get in touch and we'll make sure you get you back on the podcast to share it. And I look forward to catching up. We've got a garden centre trip that we need to be taking together.
Yes, garden is the next project for our house renovation. Now we've finished now we're not living on a building site. Yeah, definitely need to get the garden sorted.
Yeah, we're just in the same process ourselves at the moment. So thank you, and it's been an absolute delight. I'm really pleased that you could spare this time, Lisa. Thank you.
Oh, no, bless you. Thanks, Vicky. Anytime.
Cool.
Enjoy your next holiday.
Yes. Thank you. I hope that I've been able to put some whoosh into your life. And I think the key point that we came out with here is, just because you can do something doesn't mean to say that you should do something. Sometimes it takes more knowledge, more skill to know when to say no, in effect. And just because you could manage your HMOs, maybe the better approach, the better strategy for you would be to say, no, I'm not going to, and I'm going to manage a letting agent, whether that's part of a chain, which is your choice, or someone more independent, or if you've got a big enough portfolio, bringing in someone to work for you as an administrator. But recognizing when it's a good use of your time, when it's a good use of your knowledge, and when it's a good use of your expertise, and what's the best use of those things. So remember to like, follow, and everything else, and I will see you on the next episode. Thank you very much for listening.